Welcome to this online session. It's called GCSE 2012 Reforms Going Linear, and this information is particularly about GCSE statistics. My name's Graham Cumming. As said, I'm a senior manager at Edexcel for statistics. I'm sure I'm in touch with a number of you by email. So I'm going to go over some basics of the reforms and say how this affects statistics. It's actually probably not a great deal of effect on the statistics syllabus, but it's a useful chance for you to be able to make sure you know everything that's going on and to ask some questions. One of my colleagues, Suha Yassin, as was mentioned, will be answering some questions in the background, and we'll take all questions at the end if there are any left over. GCSE reforms. You may be aware that Ofqual have confirmed changes that were brought in by Michael Gove as Education Secretary, and that was to make GCSEs all linear in structure in the future. There's been a lot of criticism of modular exams and of retaking of modular units, resitting them till you get the result you want. The statistics specification at the moment is a modular one, in the sense that there is a written paper and there's coursework or controlled assessment that can be done as a unit. So the main stress of this presentation is to say how the statistics is now becoming linear again. But just to go over some of the general changes that have happened. All GCSEs are going to be linear in structure. In 2009, a lot of modular GCSEs were introduced for teaching starting September 2009. For teaching starting in September 2012, as a 2-year course, you'd expect all students to be doing linear examinations at the end of that. If it's over a 3-year course, it will affect those who started already in September 2011, but generally speaking, it tends to be 2-year courses for GCSE. There's also a reform to award additional marks for spelling, punctuation and grammar in some of the GCSEs, but at the moment it's in English literature, geography, history and religious studies. So it's not something that will be tested in the statistics written paper, not something that will be tested or assessed in the controlled assessment. Well, obviously, the better that students can write, the better usually for their controlled assessment. But as I say, it's not something that marks will be given or taken off for. Units won't be able to be resat before cash-in. I mean, that's, I suppose, self-evident given that there will be no units. So in statistics at the moment, there is a chance to have a second go at your coursework, perhaps controlled assessment, I should say. So that won't be possible in quite the same way in the future, but I'll go over the nuts and bolts of that a bit later. Availability of examinations will now be in the summer series only. That's been the case for statistics for a while. We have been asked if we would have a November session by some people. The numbers really haven't suggested that it would be sustainable. We don't think we would have had many entries in a November session for statistics. But that's off the table now, even if we wanted to. All examinations will be assessed in the summer only, with the exception of mathematics and English exams, which will have a November session. Finally, controlled assessment can be conducted at any time but submitted at the end of the course. So the difference with that at the moment with statistics is you can take the controlled assessment perhaps in the first year of a 2-year course. You could get your marks for that at the end of year 10 and then take the written exam at the end of year 11. So now it will be the case that at the time the written paper is taken, that's when the controlled assessment would be conducted. Even though as a teacher you could put your class through it sometime before that, it's a case of really sitting on it until such time as you mark it, and it gets moderated and entered. The timeline here, which it might be worth making a full screen presentation of, because it's quite small. So I think if Sarah will make that a large screen. This one starts back in September 2010, but September 2011 was the first teaching of the GCSE courses with modular assessment. So some of you might be halfway through a GCSE statistics, for instance, if you're doing it over 2 years. I know a lot of people do it over 1 year. That's when they began. And then from November 2012, entry to GCSE units is restricted to those that are cashing in no later than November 2013. This is autumn 2013. So as far as the GCSE statistics goes, that means the summer of 2013. So if you do want to do your coursework as a separate unit, you have until 2013, summer 2013, that statistics will be a modular specification. There's some dates in there for maths and English. So for instance, the maths will be available as a modular specification for final examination in 2013. So if you were doing the Spec B and wanted to enter Unit 3, you'd have till November 2013 for the mathematics, but June 2013 for the statistics. So as it says, final exam for modular series is the June 2013. And final exam for modular assessment, English and Maths, in November 2013. January and March sessions won't be used for GCSE examinations any longer. March we've had for GCSE mathematics. We've just had one a couple of weeks ago. For this March there will be a GCSE maths one in March 2013, but after that there'll be no March sessions for anything. Generally, as a maths teacher, you might be used to maths exams in November, and they will continue. We have had some exams in January for, I think, English, science perhaps, but the Jan 2014 session for GCSEs will no longer continue. I say in brackets, there's the IGCSE and the Edexcel certificate examinations. They will continue in January as far as we know, for the foreseeable future. So there will still be January sessions. There'll be January for A-level examinations, for instance. September 2010, this is coming up in a curious order, but September 2010 saw the first of 3-year GCSE courses that included the spelling, punctuation and grammar coming in, so they'll be first examined. I think it's in the summer that it was in the January exams that marks were first awarded for that. And 2-year courses from September 2011. September 2011, first new linear GCSE 3-year courses, which would have been interesting because the reforms weren't introduced until quite a way beyond September 2011. So not a great deal of notice for anyone doing a 3-year GCSE. But really we're thinking it's around the September 2012, September this year, first teaching. We'd expect most GCSE courses to be 2-year. We'd expect those students to be at the end of their year 11 in summer 2014 when they'd be doing linear examinations. I know that statistics is often an exception to that. It's often done as a 1-year course, so change your thinking depending really on when your students will be taking their final examinations and expecting to get a grade for statistics. Again, assessments for those that include the spelling, punctuation and grammar start in January 2013. GCSEs available as linear from June 2014, and English and maths available in the November sessions. Right. I hope that was clear enough. Something to refer to that might become useful at some point. So minimal change to the specifications. This is what we have looked for. It's yet another change. They seem to come around rather a lot. They certainly come around for maths and statistics a lot. But with exception of those introducing marks for SPAGs, we are not changing the subject content, and that applies to the GCSE statistics. So subject content will be just the same as it has been since we introduced it for first teaching GCSE 2009, and even then there was very little difference to the statistics GCSE that had gone before that we've been running since 2004. So the reforms will affect the way the assessment is taken, in that everything is taken at once, but not changing the style of the examination, the style of the questions, not changing the content in the specification. Again, it's everything done at once from summer 2014, and it will be a summer examination for statistics, only English and maths, that goes in November. SPAG again, English literature, geography, history and religious studies. So not a worry for statistics, not a worry for mathematics either, in case you were wondering if that's coming in anywhere. Controlled assessment, there's no change. We're not bringing in any changes to the way the controlled assessment works, or any of the content. So whatever guidance you've received on controlled assessment for statistics so far will stay the same. You'll be able to run them when you want to. So if you're doing statistics over 2 years, you could do all the controlled assessment in the first year, whereas you could currently put that in for moderation and to get your marks on that unit. You would now have to sit on it until such time as you entered when the students were putting in for the written examination. A lot of centres we know do the statistics over 1 year, so in that sense it shouldn't be an issue. You'll still be putting it in for moderation at the time in the summer session that the students will be doing the written examination. We'll be providing tasks as we generally do around March time. We should have some tasks for the summer 2013 session. Should be coming on the website, I'm told, by next Monday. They are a bit late, but we'll have the 2013 ones. At the moment they last for a year, and we change them every year. We'll still be changing them every year, but under a linear specification they'll be current for 2 years, because we appreciate that some people will want to do them in the first year of their GCSE, some will want to do them in the second year of their GCSE if they are running a 2-year session. So it will extend the availability of those tasks, but we'll still be producing 3 a year to use with a controlled assessment. You will be able to carry unit results forward if your student wishes to retake. So at the moment, a student might retake their statistics written exam and use their controlled assessment unit marks to be added to that. So when it goes to resit, it's just a combination of the 2 units. What we'll be returning to is what we used to do for statistics, and indeed for mathematics, is you could do your coursework. You could retake the examination but carry your coursework mark forward for a year. So that will be the case now. Essentially, you'll still have your controlled assessment marks. They will sit on our system. So if a student does want to retake, they only have to retake the written paper, and if their controlled assessment mark is good enough, they can carry that forward. as it says, it'll still be a case of making sure you're using the correct task for submission date at the end of the course, but we'll make that as clear as we can when we release the coursework each time. As it says, you can carry unit results forward from one examination session to the other, except where they've been used for a single award and you wish to reuse them for a double award, so that won't affect the GCSE statistics. And you can carry them forward where you want the result from one or more controlled assessment units in order to retake a whole qualification. So that's, as I say, it's bringing your coursework or controlled assessment result forward so that you can just retake the written paper. Reforms to performance tables at the moment. There's not a great deal of change, but there's a lot of discussion about it. Headline indicator continues to be 5 A-star to C GCSEs, including English and Maths, and all qualifications, regardless of size, will count as equivalent of 1 GCSE. So that's affecting some of the vocational qualifications. But the GCSE statistics will still count within the other A-star to C results, but it doesn't serve as a substitute for mathematics. That would have to be done separately. Edexcel certificates will be included in the performance measures, so just as a in brackets again, if you're doing GCSE mathematics, you could do the Edexcel certificate in mathematics, and that will be included in the performance tables. And the EBAC, as you probably know, is there as a performance measure. It's not a separate certificate as such, but it's for those students that get a grade C or above at GCSE in English, Maths, History or Geography, a science and an ancient or modern foreign language. So I don't think there are any plans to bring in separate certificates for that at the moment. Reiterating then, it's minimal change to the specification means we haven't changed it. We're not trying to give ourselves any work, so there's no change to the current specification, and the change is sitting all the units at one time, meaning the written paper and the coursework being submitted in the same summer session. No spelling, punctuation and grammar for statistics, no content change to the controlled assessment, and it can still be conducted at a time that's suitable for you and for your students. Early entry, as I say, you can't resit any units, but I don't think that's a big issue. You can't resit the coursework before cashing in. You could retake the whole qualification by taking both another coursework controlled assessment task, I should say, and the written paper again, but I would expect most students to carry forward their controlled assessment mark. That's what they always used to do in the old style statistics when it was coursework. It's very rare that students actually did the coursework again. I expect that to be the same with controlled assessment. Early entry will still be allowed, so you will be able to put students in year 10 for statistics. That's quite a popular entry at the moment. There seems to be some rumours circulating that only examinations taken in year 11 will be recognised in the performance tables, but we certainly haven't been told anything like that thus far. I don't think it's something that DFE could police very easily. There's a big discussion about early entry in mathematics and whether it should be allowed. Certainly there's been a large entry in November, for instance, year 11 November for mathematics, but that discussion is still going on. A lot of students are entered in year 10 for statistics, and that's probably a better model than having them do their maths in year 10 and statistics in year 11, because that tends to leave them forgetting a lot of maths. If they go on to do any at A level, it means they've had a year doing statistics but have maybe gone a bit cold on some of the other topics. So we do see a lot more statistics entered in year 10 if it's going to be different, though a lot of students do both maths and statistics in year 11. If you do enter them in year 10, the results will still follow on the tables for those students when they reach year 11. So they're held over for a year, but they go on the performance tables for those same students when they're in year 11. That essentially is everything that is changing for statistics, and I think you'll find that that's not a great deal. We will support you as far as we can. There's a picture of me looking like I don't want my picture taken. You can always contact me at the what we call the Maths Emporium, and we have a Maths Emporium at edexcel.com address. That's really, it may seem like I'm answering them all, but I have colleagues who answer a lot of these emails as well, so we can be reached there if you've got any queries, particularly about the administration of the examinations and how to find the support you need. We run an Ask the Expert service on the main Edexcel website, and that's direct contact to senior examiners and moderators for statistics. So if you have any queries about what to do with coursework, how to conduct controlled assessment, what sort of thing is appropriate, that's a very good system because it does go through to the examiners and moderators who usually know a lot more than I do about the ins and outs of what's acceptable. If you have questions about what are acceptable answers to statistics questions, you can also be sure they'll be back to you within 3 days, usually quicker than that. Unfortunately, you can't always be sure of that with me, but I try my best. And the examiners like it because they get paid for it. So if I ask them a question, they don't. If you ask them a question directly through Ask the Expert, they'll be paid for it. So we'll answer your queries a lot more cheerfully, I expect. You can find Ask the Expert on any of the contact links on the main Edexcel website at edexcel.com. We're sending out a series of mailings. We have done over February and March just to make sure that people are aware that everything's going linear, so to keep you up to date with anything. And we do have a subject page, particularly for statistics. It's that link there that will lead you to the tasks that you need, the tasks for the controlled assessment. They're actually only kept on the Edexcel website. I don't put them on the Emporium website because the Emporium website is not necessarily that secure. There's some people who aren't teachers, whether I know it or not, that use the site, but you have to be a teacher to get a Edexcel online username and password for the tasks that are there for the controlled assessment. So do keep a note of that link so you can use it to get a hold of the tasks, especially if you need the new ones next week. In summary then, it's a move to linear assessment, spelling, punctuation and grammar in English, history, geography and religious studies, but not in statistics. There's no change to the subject content of the GCSE stats specification. There's no change to the content of controlled assessment where it says no plans. There were never any plans. We always wanted to keep it the same. Units have disappeared as a concept, so they can't be resat before the cash-in. Everything's done at once, and examinations will be restricted to the summer series, so ideas that we may have had of a November for statistics have gone. Headline indicator for performance tables continues to be 5 A* to C GCSE, including English and Maths, and the back measure has been introduced. There's a page on the website which gives you general information about the GCSE reforms. The link is there, so if you want to know anything more generic about the reforms or want to find out about other subjects, you can go to that link and it will all be there. I'm hoping these changes should be relatively painless, certainly for the GCSE statistics. I think in the maths area they will affect obviously some of those that have been teaching modular maths, which has been running since 2002, so it's had 10 years, and that will be going linear. We do have some of these separate online sessions which cover the mathematics specifications. There's quite a lot more ins and outs to look into for those, so the presentations last a bit longer. We've got a couple coming up next week, so if you're interested you can log on to one of those as well. But for now, I would hope that Suha has managed to answer any of your questions, but if there are any more, please enter them now, and we'll be here for a while, and we'll try and answer them. But if not, thank you for giving up your time to join this webcast today, and I hope you've learned everything you need to about GCSE statistics in the future. Thanks very much.